Yeah, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I've been listening to your music for years. It's been definitely a staple in my kids' yoga classes. And I think
Oh,
most people listening are going to feel the same way. So, really an honor. And I'm excited to learn more about you. So, I'd love to start with just yoga for you. And when did
yeah,
you first have yoga in your life and how did it impact you?
sure. Well, long ago when I was living in New York City, um, I was honestly looking for a way to stay in shape. I'll be totally frank. I had always been an athlete. I played soccer. I was a hurdler in college. Um, and once that kind of ends, I was like, now what am I going to do to, be an athlete and stay in shape? And I saw a yoga studio open in my New York City neighborhood. And I went and I really liked the class. But again, I'll be totally honest. I was like, that was nice. So I didn't, I'm not one of those people that like fell in love in my first yoga class and this is going to be my life's work kind of a thing. But I kept going and it began my journey. I slowly began to fall in love with it and really see the benefits and really feel it in my body and mind. And but that's how it began. It's kind of funny to say, like, oh yeah, I just want to stay in shape.
Yeah, you know what? I
but
think
you know,
that's a common story for sure. That's how I started too.
right?
With the dance background, I thought, "Oh, I'm out of college now. How do I stay in shape?" We went to yoga. And the same,
Yeah.
I did not fall in love with it right away either. So it's
Oh,
not
good.
always that
Okay.
like
So
light
all
bulb.
right, it's not just me. It's not just me.
Yes.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. So that's cool. But you stuck with it. And then
Mhm.
at what point did you decide I'm not sure like the order of events to share it with children. Were you teaching
Sure.
before you created the music and what kind of came first?
Yeah. So I was teaching at the time at a parent-child music program, teaching music to little ones. That would their parent or caregiver would bring them. It was this wonderful program. I loved the job, and it incorporated music and movement, and taught all the instruments of the orchestra and that kind of thing. But I always wanted to bring my own creativity to it. I was kind of bound by the curriculum I was required to teach. Um, and I had been in that job, I don't know, 8 months or something, and I saw an ad for a children's yoga teacher training. And I just immediately in my bones, I was like, I'm doing it. I'm gonna, just like it was one of those hits that you get, sort of in your gut. So I took the training, and then I was like, this is what I'm gonna do, and
Mm,
started teaching basically anywhere that would have me for pay or no pay, and that began that journey. And then as far as the music, I'm a lifelong musician. And so the thought when I first started of walking into a room of, boisterous 5 and 6 year olds felt really intimidating to me, as I know it does to many new teachers, right? You're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to handle this? So I brought my guitar because for me, it was really a comfort. It was really almost like a crutch. And, but incorporating the music into the classroom was so effective. And I had had all this experience teaching young children in the program I had worked for. um, it was just such a home run combination that I started creating songs to use in my classes right away. And that became my first album, Dance for the Sun. It's just an incredibly effective to combine the music and the movement. So that's sort of how it all began.
yeah, so natural how it just
Right.
started.
Hmm.
And I love that when you saw that ad for the kids yoga training, it's like you just kind of knew like that sounds amazing. Once in a while those moments happen in our life. And if you listen to it, it's incredible where it can take you, this journey
That's
you've
exactly
taken.
right. Yeah. I think it's just to digress for a moment, as I think that listening, we all need to really listen to our gut, like whatever you call it, intuition, listen to your body's wisdom, whatever it is, probably more in life. And I think it's something we should really be trying to teach our children too in our kids yoga classes. Listen to that inner wisdom. Your body's going to tell you, which way to go. So just
Yes.
yeah, it's really important.
Right. When we plant those seeds young, then they don't have to do all the unlearning that we we as adults have had to do. It's like they
Absolutely.
just follow that from when they're a child.
100%. Yeah, I was in jobs I hated before that. I mean,
Mm,
hated. And if I think I had paid attention more to what was going on in my body, and it maybe wasn't until I had the opposite experience of seeing that ad and going through that training, being like, oh my god, I love this, that I even knew there was an opposite side. Um,
right.
but I agree. Don't, if we could spare them some of that unlearning, how wonderful.
Yes. Yes. Well, so Dance for the Sun, that's I'm very familiar with that album. And I loved how you included like the songs, and then the other side would be you teaching with the song. I thought that was so
Hmm.
great for people to hear who maybe don't have as much teaching experience or looking for new ideas. So I'm just curious, what was the process like in actually taking these songs that you just kind of authentically came up with and then deciding, okay, I'm going to make this an album and I'm going to release this?
Well, yeah, it's funny because I wasn't going to do that at first,
Mm.
but I've always been a musician, and after college, when I was living in New York, I was writing a lot of grown-up songs, and doing open mics in the West Village and playing my own gigs and playing with a small band and that kind of thing. So I kind of always, part of me always thought, well, I'm going to go that direction. And when I was thinking about putting an album together for release for sort of a grown-up audience, several friends and my family kind of said to me, but you're having all this great, I can see how you're loving doing this with the children, and there's an audience there and people are coming to your classes, and they're, maybe that's the album you need to
Mm.
release. And I was kind of like, huh, what a brilliant idea. It's like people around you can see something
Yes.
almost more easily than you can.
Yes.
But as soon as it was suggested to me, I was like, oh my gosh, that makes, so much sense, because I could feel that others could use this, and bringing this work to children. And then, even further, I was like, and I could just show them how to teach it by recording these yoga tracks. Like, here's literally how I teach, this song, Black Dog in the River, on my album. I'll record it for you. Here you go. Just press play.
Mm.
So it felt like something born out of this experience I was having, and a feeling of really this could be in service to others who are bringing this work to children.
Mm. And was this independently released at first, or did you work with a recording studio?
Yes, all my albums are independently released. I have my own
Mm.
my own label, and I mean I have a distributor and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, but I am my own label essentially. Yeah, I've done
Oh,
all of them that way.
that is amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Um, so now in terms of your books, so you're also, so it's like, it's funny in the kids yoga world, there's authors, there's musicians, there's teachers, and you're kind of doing everything.
Yeah, all the
So
things.
all the things. So your
Hmm.
books, which I also love, which are also beautifully illustrated, and how did those come to be? Was that after the music that you decided
Thank
to?
you. Yeah, I know this is the latest one that just came out. I know
Ooh,
the people
hot
listening can't see it,
cocoa
but you can go
con.
find it. Hot Cocoa Calm just came out in December. And I'm glad you mentioned the illustrations, because Ani Betts is the illustrator for all of them, and she's brilliant. And I really
Hmm.
believe that a lot of the book's success can be attributed to the fact that they're just so pretty to look at,
Yeah,
and
they're
I think that
gorgeous.
a young child, picking them up just loves to page through it, even if they're not necessarily reading it or even doing the exercises. So,
Hmm.
props to Ani Betts for the beautiful drawings. But the way that these started was, um, after my music got rolling and I had, got some traction, and Sirius XM radio was playing a lot of my songs.
Hmm.
And the host of the morning show called me and said, we have, she said, a lot of my listeners are in the car in the morning. They're on their way to childcare or school or whatever, and they're all frazzled and they've rushed out the door, and the kid's eating an Eggo in the back seat. And, can you, I know you're all into this, like yoga and mindfulness thing. Can you create some little breaks for them, or little, exercises or activities that they can do in a car, in a backseat of a car, that would help bring some calm to their mornings? And I was like, that's a really interesting idea. So I created this whole series we called Backseat Yoga Breaks. And they were, little stretches and little breathing exercises. And they were 60 seconds or less. And I recorded them all and sent them, and they played them on the air all the time and got really great feedback from them. And so when a publisher came calling and said, we'd like to do a book with you, we landed on the idea of adapting those into what became my album Mindful Moments for Kids first, and then
Hmm.
it became Breathe Like a Bear. So a lot of those exercises, in a slightly different form, started as these backseat yoga breaks that were aired on SiriusXM radio in the mornings to families who were, rushing out the door and in the car and all
Yes.
that kind of stuff. That's how the first one came to be.
Wow. And
Yeah.
I can really relate to that morning rush. It's like every morning of getting out the door with your kids, and to take, it really is that simple to take 60 seconds to really do one of your to practice some mindfulness, and then for you to transform it into a way that it's very accessible. It's interesting. I know it's for kids, but I think adults get just as much benefit
Oh,
from the
100%.
exact same exercise, right?
Right.
It's powerful stuff.
Yeah. So it seemed to be a hit because we've all been there, right? With the, I mean,
Mhm.
I have three, and when they were young, the getting out the door in the morning, was, and it was just such a feat to get us all in the car.
Yes.
And when you get in the car and you're kind of captive for those few minutes or half hour, however long you're in, what a perfect opportunity to just either it's, whether it's set your intention for the day or let go of the stress of the morning or whatever it is. And like you said, it can be so quick to be help. I mean, it doesn't need to be long to be helpful,
Mhm.
right? Quick
Yes.
can be very effective.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
So that's
so
how the
f
books started. Yeah.
that started, and then from there, was it just kind of like, "Okay, this had a lot of interest, let's keep going?"
Yeah. Well, fortunately, I mean, I'm so fortunate. Breathe Like a Bear seemed to have really struck a chord. I mean, it's been published in 16 languages, um,
Wow.
and done really, really well. So happily, the publisher, said, what's next? What's
Mhm.
next? What's next? And I have 6 books out now. I have Peaceful Like a Panda came out about last year. It's a companion book to Breathe Like a Bear. It's got 30 more mindfulness exercises, and it's organized into times of day, which I really like. I think it really helps families that way. And then there are 4 board books for the really little ones that are incorporate some story with very simple mindfulness concepts, and working on another. So
Oh,
luckily, it's
wonderful.
become a body of work that I'm really proud of.
Yes, and they're wonderful for parents to read to their kids, but also for kids yoga teachers to bring to their classes. I love bringing books to classes and incorporating the
Oh, good.
stories.
That's what they're
Yeah.
for. I'm so glad to hear
Yeah.
that. Yep, yep, it's great.
So, of all these things you do, since you're kind of, I would say you do it all in the kids yoga industry, and I'm sure the answer might change based on what you're doing at the time. Is there any part of the work at this moment that's most rewarding to you?
That's a great question. I would say at the moment, since I'm not able to be in person with children as much as I would like, which is probably the case for all of us, but
Mhm.
pre COVID, I was spending lots of time in schools. And whether that's performing or teaching or doing huge assemblies, for 400 kids in a school gym with yoga, music, and mindfulness. And I just absolutely love doing that. But of course, that all completely went away for a year and a half or more. And it's slowly starting to come back. But since I don't have that one to one with the children, I'm really enjoying doing virtual things with the adult community who are bringing this work to children.
Hmm.
I've started a membership at the end of last year of kids yoga teachers. It's this beautiful community of people who are believe so strongly in this work. And I do a lot of teacher trainings and a lot of teacher PD. I do teacher
Hmm.
trainings for kids yoga teachers, but I also teacher professional development for classroom teachers. And I just believe so strongly in helping the adults who are who hold the primary relationships with the kids, bringing them into the work so that so then there's the ripple effect outward, right? So right now I'm really enjoying connecting and teaching and learning from other grown-ups who are in this world, who believe in bringing mindful practices to kids, and just seeing that ripple effect move outward.
Yeah, I totally can relate with teaching for so long and then realizing like I want to reach more children. How do you do that? And just like you said, it's like if you start working with the grown-ups that want to do this work, that want to learn this work. And that's wonderful. What's the name of your community in case people are interested to
Yeah, sure.
join?
It's Rock and Yoga. Yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
can, the Rock and Yoga Kids Yoga teacher membership. It's just a lovely community. And I'm happy to tell anyone more about it if they want to reach out through my website. Sure. Yeah.
Awesome.
Um, but I just wanted to follow up on bringing the adults in. Is I get called a lot of times saying, "Can you come in and teach a mindfulness class to my children at a school?" And I'm like, "Sure, absolutely, I'd love to do that." But what would be more beneficial in the long run is teaching those teachers how
Mm-hmm.
to deliver this every day in the classroom, right? Then you've got it all year long. Or teach, let's have a parent meeting with the parents in the classroom and teach them how to, right? That's when it really becomes a lasting and consistent practice that has the most benefits for the children.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And like you said, I watched your TED talk about the mindful bits, like bringing in those little
Hmm.
pieces. And I love how you said like it at first people could say, "Oh, it's another thing I have to do in my class. We don't have time. We have to do all these things." But the fact that it's so digestible, tiny, these little pieces of time that you incorporated, it's not a big undertaking once you're trained in it and understand that it could be a 60-second break in the day.
Not only that, and by the way, the science has borne out, even in children, there's a very recent study that showed that only 4 long, deep breaths can significantly alter children's stress physiology. So not only
Mm,
does it not take a lot of time, but if you're a teacher and you're doing this consistently, you're going to get that time back because your children will be calmer and more focused and more productive. So it's actually going to create time in your day that you previously spent trying to, get things under control. So, and I've heard that time and time again from teachers who use, my mindful moments that are only 60 seconds long, but they do it consistently enough that they really see the benefits.
yes. Oh, that's such a good point that it actually is the opposite. It creates more space, more time, helps everyone get centered, including the teacher, and
Exactly.
yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Well, I would love to hear from you. I'm thinking of like I'm just excited because I've been talking to so many kids yoga professionals and I'm like excited for the future of kids yoga because it's really all around the globe. And depending on
Hmm.
who I talk to, where they are, it's maybe just beginning or it's been around a while. But I get chills because I think, oh, if it's growing so fast, I started about 10 years ago and it's completely a different world now. I wonder what it will be like in 10 more years. So do you have
Right.
a vision of what you hope kids yoga and mindfulness will look like in say 10 years from now?
My hope is that it would be incorporated into the public schools, 100%, as not as something extra or as enrichment, but as essential learning. I mean, we all know that children don't get nearly enough movement in their day, and yoga based movement can be done by anybody, anywhere, with no equipment. We all know that children are struggling to regulate themselves and to cope with anxiety and stress. And mindfulness can be done by anybody, anywhere, with no special equipment, right? The benefits are out there. They've been proven time and time again by science, by evidence based research. So those practices, in my mind, should be incorporated into the public schools as part of every child's school day. And classes that are taught at the Y or the rec center libraries are fantastic, but the way to reach all the children, or the most children, I should say, is in the public schools, right? And that's the way to increase access and promote equity for these practices that are just so beneficial. So my hope is that by expanding this community of grown-ups who believe really strongly in this work in all the ways that I'm doing it and you're doing it and other kids yoga educators are doing it, will start to create that momentum, that movement. I mean, it's already started. Like you said, it's
Yes.
already begun. I mean, when I first started teaching, I would go to my local preschool and offer to teach for free, and they would say no. I mean,
Yeah.
no joke. Like when I said I taught where anyone would have me, it was not everyone would have me, even for
Hmm.
free. So, I mean, it's really come a long way, but it has a long way to go. But I could see it getting there because there are so many people now, grown-ups like you and me and others, who believe really strongly in it and who are working hard to make that ripple effect just expand and expand.
Yes. Yeah, I get chills when you're talking. And I think the key part of that I think is most important is the evidence and the science behind it. Because
Exactly.
like you said, yoga and mindfulness can have a certain people think of it a certain way just based on maybe images they've seen, or they're like, oh, that's a religion,
Hmm.
and so to say, no, 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 this is what it is. And here are 10 different studies that show you the benefits. I think
Right.
that's the way that it's getting into more and more schools. And I completely agree. In order to get all children access, it has to be incorporated in the school day because they also see
Right.
then the importance of it, that it's just part of the rest of the
Right.
day.
Exactly. Yeah, 100%. And the science part is so important. I mean, um, I have had people to keep their families home when I'm coming for an assembly because they think that I'm
Mm.
bringing religion into the school. And I've said to them, okay, have the parent just come in and watch my assembly. I mean, we are literally dancing, singing, breathing, clapping. If there's no, but you can't, there, some preconceived notions are hard to dispel, but when you can show them, yeah, here's a study that shows, for example, that 4 deep breaths will actually take your child whose nervous system is, up here, um, from really stressed out to calmer, I should say. There's proof right here. The science is there. Same thing with movement. The science is there that
Mm.
the benefits that kids absolutely need it. They need it in order to learn. You know, if kids can be in school all day long, but if their bodies and minds aren't ready to learn because they haven't had enough movement, because they're dysregulated and their nervous systems are going haywire, they won't be able to learn. You'd be asking them to do something their bodies and brains aren't able to do. It'd be like asking a toddler to fly a plane, right? So they need these practices in order to regulate their minds and bodies in order to be ready to learn. And sometimes when I talk to school administrators, that's the angle that works on them, right?
Mm.
Because what they want is for them to get their math score. And understandably, that's their jobs, right? They want to get the math scores up and the reading, and the literacy and all that kind of stuff. And if you can approach it that way, the science shows that these children will be better able to focus and pay attention and learn, and these academic scores will then increase. And if that's what we need to do to make it happen, all right. Because the host of other benefits will be there as well.
Yes. Oh, so, so true. And this kind of, it circles back to where we started, which is like that the goal is for kids not to have to unlearn things, but to rather feel in their body those that instinct or that feeling. I just listened to a podcast where a teacher named Martha Beck was saying like what feels warm, like going into your
Yes,
body. And
I
when you're
like
just,
her. Hmm.
yeah, she was just on Glennon
Hmm.
Doyle's podcast. And it's like when you're making a decision, it's your body. It's not your mind's not the place to necessarily go. It's like to tune into your body and to feel it there. But I would say that not most adults, I think many adults are like, what are you talking about? I don't even know what you mean about going into my body, because we've
Right.
been it's so disconnected. So children naturally feel that. So it's basically just nurturing what they already know and giving it
100%.
words, right? And then and
Yes.
helping them describe it so that they don't lose touch with that.
Yeah. I actually just wrote a song that's called Wise Like an Owl. And it is for children to help them listen to their intuition.
Oh,
I'll send
I
it to
love
you.
that. Oh, I love to hear that.
I wrote a song for each exercise in Peaceful Like a Panda, and that's going to be my next album. It'll be coming out later this spring, but that was a song. And I thought, is it too sort of, I don't know what the right word is, heady or something to write a song
Right.
about intuition for young kids? And I was like, no, they absolutely not. They can feel it. They can, they can understand it, and they need to be encouraged to listen to it. So I love that you said that. I think that's absolutely spot on. Your body's going to tell you. Your body's going to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
You got to listen.
Yes.
Hmm.
Oh, I love how everything's
Yeah.
so connected. I'm the
Yeah,
same way.
absolutely. Yeah.
So I always wrap up conversations with a kids yoga gem to offer to the community. So it's basically like if you could offer someone teaching yoga to kids
Hmm.
one piece of advice, what would that be for you?
I think it would be less talk, more music. I think that we as teachers talk too much. And I think that kids are talked at all day long by all kinds of grown-ups in their lives. And we as kids yoga educators have this wonderful opportunity, the freedom within our classes and our programs, to bring in music and rhythm and sound to what we do. And I will tell you that if you're not taking advantage of everything you can do with music and rhythm and sound, you're missing out on a super valuable tool that can capture kids' attention, that can help them focus, that can help them remember information. When you attach information to a melody, it's so much more memorable, that can unify the group and make it feel really bonded, that can create structure in your classes with hello songs and goodbye songs and songs for transition. There are so many things you can do. And just simply saying your instructions to a beat or a couplet that rhymes or putting your own words to a traditional tune, all these things will engage the children so much more than if you just talk at them. I encourage you to give it, I mean, this is what I train teachers in all the time, and it is so powerful. And you don't need to be a musician. You don't need to be a singer. Kids don't care. They truly don't. Um, it is really incredibly powerful, and I encourage everyone to give it a try. It's again, it's borne out by science. If you speak to a child, the part of their brain that's responsible for auditory processing lights up. If you play music, if you add a beat, if you add, tempo and rhythm and melody, way more parts of their brain are lit up. So there's more oxygen, more blood flow going to the brain, putting it in a much more highly focused state than if you were just talking that same thing. So it's very, very powerful. And that's what I always encourage kids yoga teachers to try more of in their classes.
That I love that so much. It's funny, like in teaching, I found that I naturally would just, and I'm not a musician, I'm not a singer, but would just start singing, especially with the young, the twos. It's like if you start losing
Yes,
their attention, and I
of
would just start
course.
singing, and it always brought them back. So like you said, yeah, you don't have to be a professional musician or a singer.
Mm-mm.
You, like you said, even the rhyming, bringing that in, it creates a different environment that you feel them just kind of,
You feel it.
it sinks into them more.
And the bottom line is it's more fun,
Yes.
right? And who doesn't want more fun? You
Right.
do, they do. I mean, it's more fun, like period, end of story. That could be, if that were the only reason, you could still do it. But there are a host of others that make it really, really powerful. So
Totally. Well, your music, I just want to tell everyone, if you don't have Kira's albums, or I mean, definitely incorporate those into your classes. It's just I used the Dancing Mountain song.
oh good.
And
Yeah.
every class for the 3-year-olds like to and also Caterpillar. That's I love
A
that song.
classic.
It's classic.
It's my
But
brother singing on that. My brother and I did
is it
that song
really?
together. Yeah, I
Oh,
love that.
that's
We
so
use that.
cool. And now your mindful moments, I'm actually,
Mhm.
I want to try to do those in the car ride to school. I think that's such a good idea. The other day it was so chaotic that we just all took a deep breath. I was like to my kids, I'm like, let's all take a deep breath. But I love that idea of playing one of your those 60-second clips to just like ground down.
Yeah, just hit play. I'll talk you through it, right? My voice is, you don't
Yeah.
have to do anything except put
Yes.
it on, hit play, and follow along. Easy
Awesome.
peasy. Yeah.
Well, I would love for people to find you in all the places, and anything that you're working on right now that you'd like to promote. So can you just tell us like, your website, social media, all
Sure.
that?
Yeah, yeah. You can find my music on Spotify or Apple Music or all of the places. My books
Mhm.
are available anywhere you can imagine to buy a book. I'm on Instagram. That's the social media platform I'm on the most. It's at Kira Willey. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter. And yeah, I'm building this rock and yoga community, which is this just beautiful community of kids yoga educators. If you're interested in that, just head to my site and get in touch. And I have a new album coming out, and that'll be out in a couple of probably 2 months, but a single will be out really soon. So that's exciting. And that goes along with the book Peaceful Like a Panda. So my idea was that, um, it's easy to make a complete lesson plan with the lesson, the mindfulness activity from the book, add in the song, and you're on your way to a pretty much a complete lesson plan. And yeah, I'm working on another book as well. So all kinds of good stuff going on. So
Mm,
head to my site to learn more. It's kirawilley.com. Thank you so much for
wonderful.
having me.
Thank you. It was such a pleasure to talk to you. You're like a kids yoga hero of mine. So to be able
Oh,
to
I
have
appreciate that. That's
to
so
talk to
sweet.
you, it's been so fun. Thank you.
Thank you. My pleasure.